Well, the first year we did invite Charmaine to be Harry Lee's, sit in Harry Lee's jail, and so we carried her through the French Quarter in Harry Lee's jail. He had made a comment shortly before that that no one should be coming into his parish that was of a different color, so we figured that we probably should put Charmaine in his jail and carry her through the quarter. And so she was our first queen, and also agreed to be the singer at the ball, which was on the Natchez later that night. And the second royalty was Chef Paul Prudhomme, and I think, Don, you helped with the connection with that as well, as I recall. And basically the problem was meeting with Paul and figuring out the right size for the pot, because we had to put him in a gumbo pot, and he had to be able to get in this gumbo pot, and so we ended up with about a 6-foot diameter pot. And the only thing we forgot is that the light switch was behind him, and so once he sat down, somebody had to crawl between his legs to get through there to turn the light on that was over his head. But those were our two royalties on the first 2 years.
Who did it?
My job.
Thank you, Spoons. Let's give a big hand to Don and Spoons. They really helped out. They will deny it too, but he said that this is 1,000 parents in this crew, and that's absolutely right. After he decided to go to a master's degree in urban planning, and his wife was pregnant, he realized he could no longer be captain of the crew. And unfortunately, I displayed to him initiative and resolve, and he passed it off to me. And that's what you get for doing well. But I took it because I loved it. I wanted to keep it going. So my first year was 1989. The theme of the parade was Krewe du Vieux predicts, and we had a queen, Lois Simbach, who not too many people know, but back in those days she was a designer, artist, did a lot of sewing, but she had a juju doll business. She would make these little miniature juju dolls in the quarter. And so she had as her king this 12-foot juju doll that she sewed together. And I remember stuffing it with newspapers the night before the parade just to get it to be erect. Not anatomically. But everyone just basically took off on the theme, and that's what the Krewe du Vieux does. We have an overall theme, and each of the sub-crews of the crew basically take off on that overall theme. Sometimes they do, sometimes they do what the hell they want to do. It doesn't matter. We have no control over it, and we don't want it. We just basically lay out a grand plan, and that's it. We don't tell everybody what to do, what their theme should be, how they should dress, how they should costume, how they should march, what kind of throws they should have. We don't do any of that stuff. It is about as loose as a group you can get with respect to that, because we don't want to diminish individual creativity. And if you have rules and restrictions, that goes out the window. So the Krewe du Vieux is a non-profit organization dedicated to the historical and traditional concept of a Mardi Gras parade as a venue for individual creative expression and satirical comment. And that says a lot there as to how we manifest out in the streets. So the following year, we had Krewe du Vieux spells something fishy. And one of the things Krewe du Vieux does is that we take people or characters or icons in New Orleans culture and we recognize them. And that year we picked Al Scramuzza. You know, everyone loves Al Scramuzza. You can't be a loser with Al Scramuzza. Yeah. And he was a real character, he really was. And that's one of the things we try to do. We don't go out of town to Hollywood and all that to get our royalty. We pick people from in town who have made a contribution to our culture and society and serve good crawfish, you know, need be. But he was a trip. I mean, we made a little shrimp boat for him that was, put him in, it was his royal carriage. For Chef Paul, we had a gumbo pot, and the gumbo pot turned into a voodoo hut for Lois Simbach. For Al Scramuzza, we did a major redesign of the royalty float, and we changed the gumbo pot to a shrimp boat which consisted of electrical conduit, chicken wire, and biscuit painted white. And he and his wife Sarah rode to the parade and had a blast. And he's still a major supporter of the crew. He shows up on some of our functions. After him, 1991, Krewe du Vieux's lost conventions. That was the year when there was talk about the Democratic and Republican conventions having their conventions in New Orleans. And at the last minute, they both pulled out, so we had lost conventions. It was also the start of the Gulf War under George H.W. Bush. And so we had a lot of things to play off on that. Anyway, the King and Queen were another kind of odd couple, Ricky Graham and Becky Allen. And you know, everyone loves those two guys and the gals too. I get confused sometimes as to who's who. But we took the same method. We made a model of the Superdome using the same technique that we used to make the shrimp boat. So. This is like, we only had 6 crews in the sub-crew at this time. I mean, we didn't really grow, you know, for 4 or 5 years at that time. Although in 1991, we had the first crew that actually joined us outside the original 5 or 6. And that was the crew of Chaos, who are still in the parade today. And I tried my best to get people to join the crew, and there was no interest in the city. You know, now it's like we have to tell, you know, knock people away, but back then it was hard to find people to join. And I put ads in the paper, Gambit. I put it in the personal ads, come join the Krewe du Vieux, and you know, no response. Except this one time I got a call that said, well, other than the other calls who wanted me to do other things, but there was one call I got, you know, meet me at Krewe du Browns, and it was Herb and Susan Guidry who said they wanted to join the Krewe du Vieux. I said, wow. And so that was great. They formed the crew of Chaos, and they marched the first year. That was the first crew that joined the Krewe du Vieux after the original 5 or 6. So we had a blast, of course, and we changed the route. And at that time, no one knew where we were going to begin or end because we had no predictable route. It changed every year because we never knew where we were going to end up. And that was just part of the problem that, you know, I had to deal with on a continuing basis year after year. What's the parade route going to be? You know, where are we going to end up? I can start anywhere. Where are we going to end up? And that's always was a big challenge and a struggle, really. So the year after that was 1992, and this is during my years as captain. And this is 1992 is, I think I started quitting at this time. I'm not sure, but there's sometime after the first 3 years I said I had enough. I want to quit. This is too much to do. And no one stood up and wanted to take it, you know. So I kept it going because I felt it needed to keep on going, and I loved it so much I wanted it to keep on going. So anyway.